Most excellent.
Gosh, thanks.
Two superlatives. Thank you very much. And as we said in the beginning, we're going to take about 20 minutes, and we've taken some questions from the audience. And I'll be the interrogator. No, that's the wrong word. I'm sorry.
Interlocutor.
I'll be the interlocutor. I'm not even sure I know what that means. And let the secretary give answer. First, which is a greater threat to American citizens in the country? Terrorists such as Timothy McVeigh, who are homegrown and have an issue with the U.S. government, or foreign terrorists such as the shoe bomber who came to the U.S. after training in a foreign country? This from Gail Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I actually worked on the McVeigh case, investigation, and prosecution as the U.S. attorney for Arizona in '95 when he bombed the Murat building. He planned most of that in Arizona. It was a horrific, horrific crime. And when you look at the definition of terrorism that was in the first part of the video, it covers both types of activities, right? So here's the plain fact of the matter is that we have to guard against both, and I don't get to rank them in a way. I mean, this is not, the top 10 college teams. These are real threats, and they can manifest themselves in different ways. We have international terrorism, much of it motivated by a very, I think, warped view of Islam, but it is terrorism committed in the name of Islam. We have domestic U.S. persons who want to commit terrorist acts out of the same motivation or anti-government motivations. But whatever that motivation, what they are trying to do is by committing a criminal act to cause an impact that is much broader and much more destructive. Our job is not to get them to the point where they commit such an act, to be able to detect and prevent, but it's also to make sure that if such an act actually occurs, that we respond quickly, effectively, with resilience and strength, and get back to the work of the country.
And this is a side light, but this is from Courtney Meisel of the cell. Where do you think the courts will ultimately come out on the Arizona immigration law? And from your perspective, is this the right approach, or is there a better approach?
Well, I think on that one, I think the district court got it right. I think the Department of Justice was right. That we cannot have 50 different immigration enforcement schemes across the country. There's a right way and a wrong way to involve local law enforcement in immigration-related matters. The Arizona law was the wrong way. There are other kinds of state laws which are the right way, or other efforts which are the right way. One I know that is we are working on with Colorado authorities now is known as secure communities. What is secure communities, you might ask? I'm going to tell you. What secure communities is where, when someone is arrested and booked into jail or booked in prison, you run their fingerprints. And what currently happens in law enforcement across the country is they are run against all of the criminal databases operated by the FBI. When secure communities is implemented in a jail or prison, the technology hookups are made so that they are also run against the databases on immigration and lawful residents. What that does is it allows the federal government to make sure that it is finding people in the country illegally who are also committing other crimes, and make sure that once they have been through the criminal justice system, they go into the immigration system for removal from the country on a permanent basis. And so we have moved from having secure communities in a couple of jurisdictions 2 years ago. Now I think we're in over 600 across the country, and under our current schedule, we will be in every jurisdiction and hooked up by the year 2013.
And I think just to tag on to that, I know Governor Ritter is looking at this right now, and I believe to roll this out, we're looking at Arapahoe County, El Paso County, and Denver County as being the first 3 counties that would do that. Thank you. Now from David Markham at Lockheed Martin, what are your views on the direction of the federal and Supreme Courts on the rights of domestic surveillance in the name of Homeland Security and the rights of privacy?
Well, I think I've mentioned privacy several times in my talk because we don't want to create a false dichotomy between security and the other liberties we enjoy. That defeats the whole purpose, really, on the security side. So the things we have to do on the security side, we constantly are thinking about the privacy aspects. For example, I have a whole group of people who work in my headquarters who are specialists in privacy law. I recruited them into my headquarters because they are specialists in privacy law. I said, as we build initiatives, we need to build those things in from the get-go. And that's the way we look at things. Now, as for the courts, you know, they're kind of all over the map right now on many of these things, in part because I think some of the technology and other things available have evolved so quickly, and the threats have evolved so quickly. As in many things, sometimes it takes, you know, it takes a while for issues to sift out and for the law to evolve. It typically evolves more slowly. That's what's happening now in the court system. And we're seeing that evolution. And of course, whatever ultimately the courts decide, we will adhere to, but I will tell you, and that's why I started off with saying, we want to build those things in from the beginning and not be told by a court, this is what you must do on something that we weren't already doing. Now, one thing I will point out, and then I'll let you go on to the next question, Mayor, but is technology has changed quickly so that we do need some statutory revisions that would enable us to conduct surveillance properly monitored and approved by a neutral third party, by a magistrate, but on different kinds of phones, different kinds of communications technology. I think we've all recognized that that has changed very quickly, and the statutes were written, I think they were using the teletype then. I don't know what they were using, but in any event, the statutes themselves need to be updated.
Right. Can you explain how international terrorist-related incidents, such as the reports coming out of Europe from Saudi intelligence and the recent attacks in Chechnya, impact the U.S. and communities such as Denver? So, and this is, you've alluded to this a little bit when you were in your remarks. What gets the attention of DHS, and how does it impact the way local law enforcement prepares and responds to situations?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we focus on is what are we learning from intelligence either provided from abroad or that we have observed abroad in terms of tactics, threats, and behaviors that are being discussed or employed by Al-Qaeda, by Al-Qaeda-related groups, other terrorist groups, say, for example, if Al-Shabaab were to want to attack within the United States. And to put that into an unclassified format so that those things can be shared quickly across the country. and so that they can be used for training, for exercises, and the like. And I'll give you one example, and that is we collectively learned many lessons from the attack in Mumbai, India. And so now, for example, the Coast Guard, which is part of DHS, is employing or deploying an entire small boat strategy in a way that perhaps hadn't been thought of before we saw what happened in Mumbai, but in terms of training for and exercising some of the ways that we manage our ports and the entry of smaller boats into our ports. So those things which are gathered internationally can themselves be used and shared across the country.
That's interesting. And I should have said that was from Paul Brooks, Senior Vice President at KeyBank. I got to keep up with my question answering etiquette. This is from Harvey Allen, who's the CEO of Braddock Financial. A few months ago, the U.S. hosted an international summit that focused on controlling and protecting the world's nuclear material. What are the implications for the U.S. what are the implications for the U.S. and the world if a rogue nation or terrorist organization becomes armed with nuclear weapons?
Well, not good.
Next question.
The community of nations as a whole, as a world, needs to be policing the disposition of nuclear materials. All nations of the world, all peoples of the world are implicated in this issue. So it's very important not only for the United States to lead by example in terms of how we manage nuclear material, but to be engaged with the world at large. Now, from a Homeland Security standpoint, we, of course, are very concerned with material being brought into the country, hidden in small amounts, disguised by small amounts that could possibly escape a censor or the like. And one of the things we recognize in this area, as in so many, is first of all, that you can't begin your homeland security at the borders of the United States, that you need to be working internationally at the same time and with our allies abroad about information collection, information sharing, and the like. Secondly, we are constantly working with the technology community to increase the sensitivity of sensors, screening, scanning devices, and so forth. And thirdly, that we are working constantly with any mode of transportation into the United States on what kind of cargo they can bring in.
Absolutely. This question from Shane Alexander, who's the Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. How is the use of the internet by terrorists affecting the evolution of domestic and international terrorism? Do you think the U.S. is doing enough to protect this new battle space, both as a communications tool used by terrorists and as a weapon via cyber attacks?
Well, let me address each of those separately. First of all, I think it is fair to say that the homegrown terrorism threat, in particular, the internet acts as an accelerant and enables individuals not only to read materials that are put on the internet, some of which are training materials that are put on the internet, but also to link with others via the internet so they never are physically in contact with each other. You know, the whole issue of radicalization, why is it that someone, particularly someone in the United States, what would cause someone to become radicalized and then radicalized to the point they want to commit a violent terrorist act? What is that continuum? Now, you know, the Department of Homeland Security, we got a lot of missions. That evolution is one that needs to be studied and learned about How do we, where is the best point to detect, to intervene in that kind of evolution? But one thing we can, and I think we have much to learn about that, but one thing we can say for sure is that the internet has acted and does act as an accelerant. We see that day in and day out. And that's just part of the environment in which we live. Now, in terms of cybersecurity and cyber attack, actually I gave a speech on that this morning in Colorado Springs. There's a big conference going on there today and tomorrow about that. We are working very closely with the Department of Defense in terms of our ability to prevent intrusions into our cyber systems and to be able to immediately protect our systems should they be subject to an attacked virus. This is particularly applicable where the attack is focused on critical infrastructure. And when you think about our critical infrastructure as a country, most of it is in private hands, but you're talking, you know, telecommunications, financial institutions, you're talking utilities, you're talking a whole lot of different things. I think we can all appreciate that. And so we are, between ourselves and the Department of Defense, really ramping up quite rapidly the United States' capability and capacities where detection and prevention of cyber intrusion and cyber attacks are concerned.
I think we have time for probably maybe two questions, one or two questions. We won't want, I realize we're wearing you out. I don't want to overstep our bounds. This from Dwight Henninger, Chief of Police from the Vail Police Department. What role do you see for local public safety agencies in preventing and preparing to respond to a terrorist incident, particularly in these difficult economic times where budgets are so thin?
Right, and I think I've already shared with you how important state and local personnel are. I mean, if an attack were to occur, you're not going to call the Department of Homeland Security. You're going to call your police. You call the police department, right? You're going to call your first responders. They are first responders. They also are first preventers in some fundamental ways. And so what we have been doing is supporting state and local law enforcement to the fullest extent we can through grants and other monies so that they can keep their personnel up, their training up, their equipment up, and also calling across the country to say that security is a core competency of government. And it's really the last place you go for budget cuts that are that will have any impact on operational effectiveness. Now, I know this is tough. I was a governor, and I know this is, it's tough, tough stuff, but I think we all have to recognize that in this threat environment, keeping a trained and effective first responder, law enforcement corps across the country is absolutely key. We cannot lose that competency.
And there's one more question here, but I think she's pretty much covered it. What can we as citizens do to help the government fight terrorism, Gregory France? So I don't think we need to go through that further. Let me thank every one of you for coming tonight. This has been a most thoughtful conversation and discussion. Let me heap praise and adulation on Secretary Janet Napolitano for, she can't imagine how busy her life is, and for her to take time out to join us is above and beyond any call to duty. We're grateful. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Janet. Now, wait till I finish this last two thank yous, and then you can do the standing, because I saw everyone starting to stand up. Not that anyone, I did see our Speaker of the House, Terrence Carroll, was here. I saw our Secretary of State, Bernie Busher, was here. Michael Bennett, Senator Michael Bennett, was here earlier and spoke. I want to thank them for taking time. I'm sure there are many other notables here. I want to thank all of our panel members who asked the questions, the University of Denver for co-hosting, the Denver Post for co-hosting. Again, Larry Meisel, the staff of the cell itself, for being such a valuable resource. And again, first and foremost, thank you, Secretary Napolitano.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Thanks again.